But like for the other provinces, because it is kind of a discussion, when I was growing up, Munster they were definitely at the top province. Like I grew up, like my dad with like the Toyota jersey, like, Ronan O'Gara, Paul O'Connell, Donncha O'Callaghan, these legendary players of the game. Like in your eyes, like kind of for the other provinces, for Irish rugby to even kick on again, from where it is, which is difficult because it's at such a level even now, would you see, kind of things that maybe other provinces could incorporate kind of from Leinster to maybe, get up to that level? It's not to, of course, be disrespectful to other provinces, but Leinster are just such an amazing outfit really these days, and been probably almost the best side in club rugby for the last number of years.
Yeah, and like the IRFU do a brilliant job with the 4 provinces, and the best example of that is that the 4 teams are in the top European competition and competing in the Champions Cup. You compare that to the Welsh regions, and they're majority of them are in the Challenge Cup this year. So that's a big plus, and it shows that the system is working. That in all likelihood, similar to last year in the URC, you'll have the 4 teams competing in the quarterfinals. The way the system is set up, it is very favorable to the province that has the most central contracts. So, these aren't the exact numbers, but if you say that the 4 provinces have a salary cap or a salary budget of 5 million, and then on top of that, if you have, as Leinster do, maybe 12 or 13 central contracts, those contracts don't come out of that budget. They're effectively an add-on. So, if you look at Leinster, we'll just say, for example, that the average central contract is 250,000. Now, that's not the exact number, but it would be close to it, I'd like to think. That's if they have 12 players on central contracts, that's a lot of money. That's a 3 million additional budget. So that could bump their budget up to maybe 8 million. Whereas if you take Ulster, they maybe have 1 or 2 players. That would mean that their budget would only be 5.5 million. So it's massively beneficial for the provinces to have additional players on central contracts, because that frees up budget for other positions. And when you look at RG Snyman moving from Munster to Leinster this year, that's a great example of the additional budget Leinster have because of the sheer number of central contracts that they have, that they can attract those kind of premium foreign players.
Gotcha. Yeah, almost like a network effect where like the more success you have, the more it kind of pulls in success.
Yeah, it is. And like I think for me, from playing in France and playing over in England, I got to see the value that the academies in Ireland have. To be able to produce your own homegrown players saves a significant amount of the budget. Whereas if you have to bring in foreign players, they're going to cost far more. They're not necessarily as passionate because they're not playing for their home team and representing their friends and family. And that's something that the Irish teams do really well. And when they do bring in a player from a foreign country, that it will have multiple different reasons. It will be to maybe bring on other young players in those positions so that they can learn their trade. And that's something that the 4 provinces have done really well. You look back on, in Ulster, John Afoe, Ruan Pienaar, and what's followed them, and the likes of Nathan Doak, Tom O'Toole. Similar in Leinster, the likes of Eason Asiwa would have been a fantastic mentor of mine when I was coming through. So they're really carefully selected, and you don't want someone coming in and blocking the development of a young Irish player, and that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, the IRFU are even being looked at as a model nearly from, let's say, other rugby unions, like looking at here's the way to do it. You see, Welsh rugby maybe having, hitting a few bumps in the road at various times. And, now maybe, England doing the same, like the homegrown talent that really does come from all the provinces it's a massive advantage that you're not having to spend all this money. Like they are a great model.
Yeah, like you look close to home and you compare Ireland's system to Wales. Wales are struggling at the moment. The Scottish system, they only have 2 teams, so they'll always be reasonably strong. It was a poor year for England last year with London Irish, Wasps, and Worcester all ceasing trading. And then the other obvious one is France, but France is very different in the sense that the playing numbers are far higher. The teams are incredibly well supported. They have an average attendance of, I think, 20 to 25,000 at each game. The TV deal is fantastic. So there's a lot more money in the game in France, sheerly down to they have, I think, close to 28 professional teams. You've got, top 14, which is obviously 14 teams. Then you've got Pro D2, which is another 14 teams. And then you go down to Federal 1, Federal 2. Those players are still getting paid. So it's they're probably the strongest union, I would say, in World Rugby. And that's surely down to the numbers of people who watch and play the game in France.